All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, recording on Tuesday afternoon. Today we're going to talk about Bills Rams, which has MVP repercussions in the division for the Rams, for the one seed for the Bills. We'll talk about Browns Steelers in the aftermath of the full Jameis experience on Monday Night Football, and then we'll close out with Packers Lions, another huge game in the NFC North. Well, let's start off with Buffalo, LA. The Bills are 4.5-point favorites at SoFi. The total is 49 flat. This is in the Sunday later afternoon window. Drew, where I want to start with this one is, do you think there is anything wrong with the Rams offense right now, which historically, well, the history of a year, whenever they've had Kupp, Nakua, Kyron, and Stafford all on the field together, it's been an all-world offense statistically, but they haven't been as dominant the past few weeks. Do you think there is something off with the Rams' offense at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, history would tell us that Sean McVay's offense goes through solid offensive line play, first and foremost, even more so than quarterback or elite wide receiver talent. That is sort of the straw that stirs the drink for them. And they've had a rotating cast of characters available because of suspensions and health and performance. It felt like they finally settled down to a degree in the second half of that game against the Saints, but the Saints are not an especially tough test, and so they should have looked good. They should have looked better, honestly. And if there is sort of a warning sign in the back of my head that I may have this unit overrated, it's because that offensive line still has a ton of questions to answer. And this is a decent spot for them, I think. The Bills' defense is a hair overrated. They've had a pretty easy go of it, just in general, in terms of who they've had to face when they've gotten to face teams, and just teams coming to them, whether kind of in their favor. And now they have to travel on the road and play a team that's pretty desperate, back against the wall, and pretty healthy. And I think the Bills defense is really in for a fun test in this one. The fact that they have a two-headed monster at wide receiver is pretty important for attacking this group in particular, who has good coverage, but you certainly can find cracks in that secondary if you have a good scheme, which McVay certainly does. I think the Rams-Bills game in a lot of ways, to me, feels very, very deja vu all over again from Rams Ravens last year, where you had an MVP on cruise control kind of season going for the one seed Ravens hosting the Rams, who came to town and gave them their best test of the year. And this feels like another sort of setup here, where this can be a true test for the Bills, who people have kind of anointed as the best team in the NFL because of beating the Kansas City Chiefs when the Chiefs did not have their best football available that day, and then followed that up with a drubbing of the kind of white flag raising 49ers on Sunday Night Football. This is, in my opinion, this week and next week against the Lions are really where we find out what the Bills are made of. And I think the fact that you're catching 4.5 points here with the home team Rams, who are, I think, capable of going score for score with the Bills, is the clear and obvious side here. I don't know if this is ultimately going to be my biggest side of the week, but I think the Rams should be closer to 2.5 point favorites here, not the Bills should be closer to 2.5 point favorites, not 4.5. And so the fact that you're catching the 3 and the 4 here by taking the points with the Rams now is a pretty appealing proposition to me. The Rams defense is a bit of a concern, obviously. They're not very good, mostly the pass defense, but the pass rush is solid, and they could get some wins in this contest. And honestly, the teams that have really put pressure on this Rams, pass defense have had, elite wideouts, and the Bills don't really. I mean, Cooper is finding some chemistry with Josh Allen, and Shakir is a tough matchup. But I'm not expecting Dalton Kincaid to be available. I think the Bills are a little bit limited right now in terms of their skill position weapons outside of Cook. And if the Rams can kind of key on Cook and have the linebacking core kind of do their job at preventing the big play in the running game for them, then this could turn into a fun contest. And team with the ball last wins kind of a setup. But whatever the case is, catching 4.5 points with the home Rams in this spot feels pretty darn good.
Yep. So there's been big splits for Matthew Stafford when he is pressured or not pressured, which makes sense given he is not the most mobile quarterback anymore. His offensive line is now fairly healthy relative to where it has been, where these guys who have missed time like Havenstein and Jackson and Dotson, they're all back. The Bills' pass rush is solid, but I don't think it is all world. Do you think that the Bills will get pressure in this game, and that'll shape the outcome against Stafford?
I think that the protection I'm expecting to be good enough. And if you want to kind of a corollary, well, what is that going to look like? Well, I kind of want it to look like the way that they defended against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football a handful of weeks ago, where they protected against the Vikings. And I think in general, the Bills' pass rush to me is good, not great. A sharp and focused Stafford combined with a slightly better pass protection and particularly his navigation of the pocket, I think is going to be pretty key here. To me, at least, Stafford suffers more from pressure up the middle than he does from pressure off the edge. He absolutely is diabolical when you bring the blitz. So I think that basically takes one of the cards away from McDermott in terms of how he's going to generate pressure here. And if he's just trying to do it from the front forward, he's just counting on his interior to be the driver of pressure, then in that case, I don't think it will be especially effective. And that unlocks a lot of what the Rams want to do in terms of downfield passing. So I'm expecting the Rams to get into the mid to high 20s here. And if the Bills win, they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to beat them by one score. I don't think this is a game where the Bills can come out, play their best, and run away and hide.
Okay, well, someone who's against Josh Allen in the MVP market, Drew, I think you are correct. It's an AFC West showdown between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City this Sunday night. Coverage of the matchup with major playoff implications begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. Brown Steelers. The Browns, who are now all of a sudden become the most captivating team in the league. They are 6.5-point dogs in Pittsburgh, who they beat a week ago. The total is 43.5. We shall see if the Lord above answers Jameis Winston's prayers to be delivered from pick sixes. I suspect the Lord will not answer that particular call, but we shall see. What do we do with the Browns? Like, what is this team? Is this are we treating them as a solidly average offense with the way that Jameis is playing and with his upside, and it's the defense that now is the weaker unit on the team?
Well, I think you can key specifically on the pass defense. The coverage for the Browns is miserable. They have issues at the linebacking safety level right now, health and just talent. And Denzel Ward is obviously a key injury to follow because he's the only cornerback who's covered himself in glory at all this year, and he's had his ups and downs as well. So Browns, I think, are going to get they're beatable through the air. If this is a decent weather game, which as far as I can tell you, it looks like it is, then this total should probably be 47. The Browns are pretty clearly now just a flat out over team. They have you can beat them through the air. You can generate explosive plays against them on the ground. I think that pretty clearly Jameis Winston is boom or bust, where he's going to create points for you or for the other team. And there's no kind of putting that genie back in the bottle, right? Like, he is who he is, and you just have to live with it. And he was brilliant at moments on Monday Night Football, and ultimately, like, in the same sentences, you can just point to the box score and be like, oh, 2 pick sixes, can't have it. 3 picks, can't have it. Game stealing pick, can't have it. Right? A lot of the same things you could have said about Kirk Cousins. Like, if I hold up those 2 performances side by side, there's one performance that I was impressed by and one performance that I was basically ready to throw the guy, out of the league. And Cousins was the latter, and Jameis was the former. And the plays made by the Denver defense, in particular the linebacker and McMillan with the pick six at the end, like, they were just flat out great plays. Otherwise, the Broncos defense, particularly at home, has been generally solid all year, and they got torched. And I think that just kind of speaks to the fact that Jameis and Judy and Moore, like, they have chemistry, and Jameis can fit the ball into tight windows. And I don't think that there's any realistic expectation to expect that the Browns are going to come in with a game plan that is run heavy, and that that will work, and that B, they will stick with it, because that's what they tried a week ago. And then they had to pivot pretty aggressively into a pass heavy approach. And, considering the results from that game combined with the overall success they had on offense against Denver, I would expect that this is a wide open type of approach for the Browns, and they got nothing to lose. Like at this point, like they're getting reps for some young players, they're generating offense, they're figuring out what who they want roster wise around for next year. So I don't think that there's really as much pressure as the world seems to imply on Stefanski right now to find a way to win a game. But at 7, I would have taken the Browns here from a side standpoint. At 6.5, I'm less inclined to do that. And this total has gotten adjusted up from the look ahead, which is correct, but it has not gotten adjusted up enough, in my opinion, considering the state of both of these teams. We haven't even mentioned it, but is the Steelers defense as good as people think? I have huge questions there.
Well, I think they've got just huge issues at corner, where I know Joey Porter Jr. Had a solid rookie season. I think people think that he's a solid corner. He's still young and he gets beat. And then on the other side, to have Dante Jackson. It's a weirdly structured defense where the defensive line is awesome. The safeties are good, but the corners are very exploitable. So yeah, it's a weird construction. I mean, we saw this game a week ago, but in the conditions made it look somewhat different. I think the thing here is just the health with the Browns between Ward. Myles Garrett was like grabbing his hamstring and limping around, but then 2 plays later, like exploding and beating his man in half a second like he normally does. So I don't know what the deal is there with his health status, but I would presume he's okay. But yeah, strange team, strange matchup. Mike Tomlin is now the 3rd favorite for Coach of the Year at plus 450. Do you find his case compelling relative to the field or at price?
I definitely do. And this is kind of in the same vein of a lot of my thoughts about the Coach of the Year award, which is that there are very stupid things that influence this. The fact that the Ravens are losing is helping Tomlin, and that's crazy. But him having this kind of a lead and being able to potentially, kind of get this done with us, now what looks like a much softer than expected home stretch here is going to be enough to keep him in the mix. I worry about that game against Kansas City, obviously. Kansas City should be able to bury this team, but who knows at that point? Like Kansas City is capable of showing up and giving a much weaker opponent an opportunity to win a game every week. So if he beats Kansas City on Christmas, I think he basically just walks us in. I, of course, we'll get to Dan Campbell in a moment. I agree 100% that he is your current market favorite. I don't really have much exception with his price currently, but I would absolutely expect that Tomlin, if he wins the AFC North 2 or 3 seed, and considering what his specific fingerprints were on this team, it is a very strong narrative, and he's going to need a little bit of wind at his sails, and he's going to need a little bit of help with Dan Campbell giving back some of the margin he has right now. But he's the clear second choice for me, much higher. I mean, it's a much more compelling case, in my opinion, than the likes of Sean Payton. And if Sean Payton beats him in terms of voting, then it just kind of goes to how ridiculous this award is, because I don't think the Steelers have done this by picking on weaker opponents. I think the Steelers have done this by rebuilding an offense, on the fly with the reclamation project in Russell Wilson that is now flat out good.
Yeah, it's strange. The cases are very different, and we don't have a lot of polling as to how they will stack up between, Dan Campbell being on an absolute juggernaut and potentially being a 16-1 team with Jared Goff. The only thing I feel very confident about in this market is that if Dan Campbell runs the slate, that he will win the award.
Yeah.
I think at that point, they'd be ending the season on a 15-game winning streak, greatest season in Detroit Lions history. They're the story of the season. I think that he would just walk it in then. But if he takes a loss, which he's very likely to do at some point, then it gets a bit muddled. You have Kevin O'Connell with the fixing Sam Darnold aspect. You have Mike Tomlin, who is the annually kind of a fringy candidate that everyone would kind of acknowledges is a great coach, but he never has the singular best case. If they go I wonder if they need to just run the slate for him to win, though, because there are so many other very strong and compelling cases. I think certainly he's live if they're a 13-4 2 seed, particularly if they sweep Baltimore and Kansas City in week 16 and 17, then I think it would get loud. And then you have Quinn and Peyton and Harbaugh, who also have strong cases in their own right. So I think we need to let this play out a little bit. And this is one where a lot of the time, I think you can project out with the race. Like, all right, I feel confident that X coach at X record should be priced as 75% probability at X coach at X record. I just don't know how 13-4 3 seed Mike Tomlin goes against 13-4 5 seed Kevin O'Connell. Like, I don't know how that shakes out. Like, O'Connell polled better than him at midseason, but now Tomlin has a lot more narrative with the Russ elements that will help him. So yeah, this is one where I would just defer really to what voter types and voters are saying about the race, as opposed to being like, if Dan Quinn goes 11-6, he's definitely winning coach of the year. Like, we just don't know that. So yeah, it's a very muddled race, but I do think it is on Dan Campbell's racket at the moment.
Yes.
And the moment that he drops a game, it is no longer on his racket, and I don't know whose racket it will be on.
Here's my prediction. You ready?
Yeah.
Whichever of these top 6 guys finishes the season on the longest winning streak gets the award.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. People have written off Dan Quinn in this market.
I wouldn't.
I think Dan Quinn will still be heard from. Now he may need to win that Philadelphia game. That might be the thing that really vaults him up. But like, if Dan Quinn wins that Philadelphia game, and it's in Washington, it's not like they're going to be huge dogs in that game or something. It'll be
that should be under 3, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to say that it would be Commanders +3. So yeah, if he wins a 3-point dog, then he will get anointed after that. So he would be my bet at the moment at price. I think people have gone far too away from Daniel Quinn. People have not gone away from Scotty Scheffler, Drew, and he and an all-star field of golfers hit the links in the Bahamas this week. Watch the Hero World Challenge Thursday through Saturday on Golf Channel and Peacock, and check out the final round Sunday on NBC at 1:30 p.m. Eastern.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, let's close out with Thursday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers are 3.5-point dogs in Detroit. The total is 51. Do you have any bet on this game, Drew?
Yeah, I think the Lions defense is in trouble. This is the kind of quintessential team that peaked too early and is accruing cluster injury on one side of the ball that was overperforming at exactly the wrong time of year. I don't mean to be sort of a doomsdayer about the Lions because they're a fun story. I love their offense. I love what Ben Johnson has done this season. I'm excited to see how he does in a playoff setting, particularly if he has home games. But I think the market is well overrating this Lions team currently. And I think most of it comes down to the fact that they were playing complementary football largely because their defense was overperforming, and that gave them the opportunity to really put a lot of pressure on opponents offensively, and keep their opponents on the field more, really lean into the run game, and the close calls they ended up just kind of defaulting into sort of physical offense, and that got them home. But it was not looking great for them on Thanksgiving. I thought they realistically should have lost that game, obviously at the cost of Eberflus's job, but the Bears came in very, very strong, and I think a lot of it had to do with personnel that were available for the Lions. And I don't know in a week if Aaron Glenn, who has done a marvelous job coordinating this year, I don't think he has the pieces in place to defend this Packers team that is coming in relatively healthy and can absolutely light you up in multiple ways offensively. Packers are going to get theirs here, and it's going to be incumbent upon the Lions to answer and maybe play with the lead, which I think is a little bit of a hopeful game state for them. And even with a lead, we've seen recently they have been susceptible to teams in comeback mode being able to put some pressure on them. So, I think this is pretty clearly Packers or pass. And I think the fact that you're getting the road number on the right side of the hook is pretty doggone favorable. And, I'm not exactly sure how the Lions, kind of bounce back from the losses here defensively, because these are important pieces and they're season long. It started with Hutchinson. Obviously, they did a nice job backfilling and kind of coming up with creative ways to create pressure in his absence. But I think in a lot of ways they were the beneficiaries of really solid linebacker and safety play. And now you have lost two very important linebackers to this scheme in Anzalone and Rodriguez. And I think that in general, the cracks are going to be pretty apparent as the Packers can, potentially get it done with Josh Jacobs on the ground to whatever degree they need to, and complement that with the high upside, deep down the field passing attack that should be successful in the absence of Carlton Davis. So, number of players here for the Lions defense that I'm expecting to miss this game, and I'm expecting to matter. Brian Branch is still an amazingly solid player, but I don't think he is singularly enough to elevate the overall defense against a Packers offense that has as many weapons as they bring to the table.
How much do you read into the last matchup where Detroit trucked them in Green Bay?
Not much. It was a very kind of fraught performance from the Packers in general, and I thought that the game was largely decided by the poor play of Jordan Love, who was missed a lot of practice dealing with the injury. It was a groin, I think, and his mobility made him pretty non-functional in that matchup. The defense for the Lions, I thought, I guess here's kind of a note. The defense for the Lions was great in that game, but a lot of it was kind of the limitations of Jordan Love, I thought. And now the market is kind of maybe keying a little bit too much on that result, and we have a healthier Jordan Love and we have a depleted Lions defense. So if anything, the results should be taken extremely in context with what was happening at the moment, and a fresh handicap on this game, I think, would suggest that there's not a ton of space right now between the Packers and the Lions in terms of power rating, and the fact that that this is an easy travel spot, neutral rest advantage, and a lot of familiarity with the Packers playing in Detroit, to me at least, makes this a relatively minor home field advantage for the Lions, and all of this stews together to be a nice opportunity to take the 3.5.
Yeah, I don't think either of these defenses are particularly good, to be honest, which is strange to say, as the Detroit Lions are literally first in defensive EPA for the season. But I do think that at some point they will get exposed with their past defense, which I just think with everyone they've lost is not going to hold up. So I think this is going to be a shootout, because I don't think the Packers defense is great either. And I think both of these offenses are pretty all world. So lots of points would be my prediction. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.